All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our RBT practice exam series where we're going through another set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please subscribe for all of our updates. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. Patrick is tracking the rate of hand raising during a classroom session. The observation lasted 20 minutes. During that time, Patrick recorded 15 instances of the client raising their hand appropriately to answer questions. How should this data be reported? So when we go to report data, we want to report it based on what we used to measure. So what measurement system did we use? In the case of Patrick, he is using rate of hand raising. And rate, of course, is frequency with a time component added. So frequency over time. If our time is 20 minutes and our frequency is 15, we're going to report 15 instances in 20 minutes, or we can reduce that down. So if we look at a frequency of 15 hand raises, that is not giving the rate because it's missing the time component. Report a duration of 20 minutes, that is not giving the rate because it's missing the frequency component. So we need both of those to find rate. Report 0.75 hand raises per minute. Yes, if we reduce 15 per 20 minutes down, we're going to get 0.75 hand raises per minute, which gives us a rate. And then D, report a percentage of intervals with hand raising. This is an interval recording. This is continuous rate recording, and we're going to report it as such. So report 0.75 hand raises per minute. Your supervisor asks you to use momentary time sampling to record on-task behavior every 2 minutes during a 20-minute activity. At the exact moment the timer goes off, the client is sharpening their pencil instead of writing. How do you record this interval? So let's think about this. We have interval recording, we have a sampling, we have discontinuous measurement, right? And you are using momentary time sampling. With momentary time sampling, when are we checking on the behavior? Well, we're checking on the behavior as soon as the interval is over. So the moment the interval is over, we check. So if the intervals are 2 minutes, then at the end of every 2 minutes, we're going to look up and record on-task behavior. This time, the timer goes off, and what happens? The client is sharpening pencils instead of writing. So they aren't on task, they're sharpening their pencil. How would you record that interval? A, mark it as on task because they are preparing for writing. Well, they're not. They're not writing, right? They're sharpening their pencil. And this is one of the flaws with discontinuous measurement. With momentary time sampling, if we look at D, for example, mark it as a partial interval, yes, because writing occurred at some point. We're not worried about the writing occurring at some point with momentary time sampling. We're worried about the moment the interval is over. So even if this client wrote for, let's say, a minute and a half, if they were sharpening their pencil when the timer goes off, we're going to mark it as off task because they're not engaged in target behavior. So this is a question as a good example of some of the flaws and drawbacks of using something like momentary time sampling to measure behavior. And then C, leave the interval blank and wait until the client resumes. No, we've got to mark something, right? We are taking data. So we're going to mark it as off task because they were not engaged in the target behavior at that moment. Your client screams to gain access to toys. The BCBA instructs you to implement extinction by not giving toys after screaming. On the first day, the child screams louder, throws toys, and hits the table before eventually calming down. The parent expresses concern and says, "It's getting worse. Should we stop?" How should you respond? Put yourself in the shoes of the BCBA here, right? And you are in the field. Your client is screaming to get access to toys. You are putting that behavior on extinction by not giving toys. So what can we expect when we put a behavior on extinction if extinction is effective? We can expect an extinction burst, a gradual increase in the behavior before it gets better. So if we are first using extinction and the child is screaming louder, they're engaging in aggression and maybe emotional outbursts, that's to be very expected from extinction. And eventually they calm down. So they go through that extinction burst and now we're calming down. However, the parent says it's getting worse. Should we stop? Well, based on what we just said, of course not. So A, tell the parent extinction isn't working and stop immediately. Just the opposite. We can anticipate this extinction burst, and we are successfully implementing extinction, and we need to continue. B, explain this is an extinction burst and continue following the plan. Yes, this is what we expect, and hopefully the BCBA has gone over that with the stakeholder, but this is what we expect from extinction. The behavior could get worse before it gets better. We just have to continue working through it. C, switch to a response cost procedure instead and inform the supervisor. We're not going to switch from extinction to punishment, especially when extinction seems to be working. And D, reinforce screaming less often to make extinction easier. Well, of course, we are putting screaming on extinction, meaning we're not giving it any reinforcement. So what we're going to do, and we're going to respond by explaining this is an extinction burst and following the plan. A parent says, don't worry about the token system today. Just make him finish his chores. If he doesn't, take away his iPad. The written plan specifies a token system with reinforcement, not punishment. What should you do? Okay, let's think about this. We have a scenario question where a parent says, don't worry about the token system. Make him do the chores. If he doesn't, punish him, basically. Take away his iPad. However, the written plan specifies a token system. So how do we approach the situation where you've got a plan that you've been trained on and you need to follow, but a stakeholder is telling you something different? As a technician, it's not your job to get in the middle of this. This has to be a discussion between a parent and the supervisor. So what should you do? A, implement the parent's request just for that session. Well, no. Just because the parent says it doesn't mean you need to do it immediately, especially in this case where they want you to use punishment when punishment is not in the plan. B, modify the plan temporarily and report later. Don't ever modify the plan without asking first. C, continue the token system as written and report the parent's request. Yes, we have to continue what is written in that plan. If the parent continues, you need to tell them you must follow the plan, and they can contact the supervising BCBA if they would like. D, stop the session until the plan is updated. Well, we're not going to update the plan just yet. The supervisor needs to come in and discuss with the parent why it's not great to change the plan as is or is in place day to day. So what you're going to do is continue the token system as written and report the parent's request. The client engages in tantrums to gain adult attention. Instead of waiting for tantrums, you provide attention on a timer every 3 minutes, regardless of behavior. What procedure is this? All right, let's end on a pretty simple one. It's a procedure question. We have a client engaging in tantrums for attention. Instead of waiting for tantrums, you provide attention on a timer every 3 minutes, regardless of behavior. And so the key here is you are giving reinforcement, right, the attention, on a schedule, and behavior doesn't matter. So what do we call this? Is it any sort of differential reinforcement behavior or intervention? No, because our differential reinforcement procedures or interventions, they're all based on behavior, right? They're all contingent on behavior happening or not happening. In this case, no matter what the behavior is, you're giving attention every 3 minutes. You're giving it non-contingently. No contingency is set up. There's no established contingency or requirements. You're just going to be giving that attention every 3 minutes, hoping that it reduces the motivation to engage in those tantrums. So the procedure here is D, non-contingent reinforcement. Thanks for watching. Check out btexamreview.com. Please subscribe. And when you pass, let us know. Work hard, study hard. I'll see you soon.